Hi everyone, welcome to Adelaide. I'm Valerie Henbes from the Smelly Cheese Shop. I left the Adelaide Central Market and took a little stroll. It's a beautiful day out there, it's autumn, it's fantastic, and I thought we'd come and check on my good friend Duncan Welgemoed from Africola. And I've always wanted to surprise him and see how he would respond to me bringing some cheese. We talked about that for ages, so I thought today would be the day. So Africola, if you've never been, a beautiful restaurant. We're very, very lucky in Adelaide to have Duncan as part of our tapestry. So let's see. Follow me. All right, so here we go. And here he is. Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour.
Ooh. Good to see you. So we are here live for the Good Food and Wine Show,
Yes, you
people. And guess what? Brought some cheese.
Fantastic. Funny you should say that.
Funny, I might say that.
Well,
It's a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah.
And not one cheese, that's three. So section 28, Monforte.
Beautiful.
What else have I got? Hang on. My bag.
Scarf.
Comté from France, of course, 12
Amazing.
months old.
Amazing.
And cheddar from England.
Brilliant.
And I was wondering whether it's something that you value. I might even sort of put a little mic there.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, first of all, how have you been?
Good. Yeah. Out of the purgatory of COVID, and now, back into the reopening. So yeah, not too bad. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. So you just had fun in the meantime, or did you create? What did you
Oh.
do with yourself?
What did I do? Basically, my book is coming out in November, so picking covers, doing all the back end for that. All the.
I mean, you pop up everywhere on social media. You just never stop. I think sleeping is totally overrated in your life.
It's true, but I love it so much. I just don't get the opportunity to. But yeah, no, we got some pretty cool stuff coming up in the year, and just hope restrictions can ease, and then we can actually do some of it.
You're going to be crazy again in no time. Just a quick note, because we were about to do something fairly insane but fairly interesting too. Eat Easy, with the search of the good producers everywhere in
absolutely.
the country. I think it's a great project.
So basically before the apocalypse happened, Eat Easy was awards based, focusing on producers, focusing on restaurants and chefs that really help the community. Obviously, we've delayed it a little bit just so everyone can kind of get their bearings again in the new world. But I mean, it's even more important now to promote and encourage the people doing the best for their communities moving forward.
Absolutely. And you and I have done lots together, more so in the wine industry. We had so much fun testing millions of different wines.
Just getting heaps drunk.
Exactly. And it's really certainly emphasized the fact that certainly the wine people have established a sense of terroir, a sense of place, much more so than maybe the people in the cheese industry.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
before we get there, how much cheese do you use in a place like Africola? Because cheese is not exactly predominant here.
You know what? We use it intelligently. It's more of a seasoning for us. We'll use say something like Comté as a real umami salt finish on a dish, or local curds to stuff dates, roll in honey and pistachio as a good finisher. So we focus on, instead of here is a piece of cheese and that's it, we'll use the acidity, the saltiness, the umami characteristics, and even sometimes the sweetness to elevate a dish.
Yeah, I love that. The fact that you can sort of really get into the complexity of an ingredient and play with it as a result. Obviously, it's something that you really need to think completely and all the time. What do I need in a dish to get a balance of flavor and aromas?
Well, because we aren't a European restaurant, so it's one of those things that for us to put some Stilton or a Bleu de Terre Mignon, it doesn't fit within the narrative of our of what we're trying to produce. But cheese has been such an integral part of my training, especially as a chef. So,
which you did in France or
England and a little bit of France, yeah.
Yeah. With who was the chef, the French chef there? Is it
Raymond Blanc, so Le Manoir's 4 Saisons. But yeah, no, you know, plenty of Michelin star chefs where, again, cheese has, you know, been such a focus. You know, you have your cheese chariots of, you know, 40 to 60 different cheeses, you know, all
cheese
coming from.
Cheese chariot. Take a note, people.
That's
cheese chariot. Where, yeah, I think it's something that needs to come back.
Definitely. I mean, but we were lucky enough in Europe to have, you know, our cheese van arrive every 2 days from Rangi's.
Yeah.
You know, and you get onto the back of it and you see what's ripe, and you know, you get to experience cheeses from the very smallest producer with bloody 9 cows, you know.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Rungis is like a mini little city near Paris, and you just get there very early, obviously, and it's like buzzing. There, it's like a mini city full of incredibly fresh produce.
That's
it's just incredible.
No.
All right, so what do you want? Okay, let's start with our Aussie cheese, which is something that you and I are very happy with, obviously, but it's the cheese from Kim Masters, Section 28. You know Kim well.
Yes, absolutely. I've been a fan of these cheeses for a long time.
Yeah, so it's, thank goodness for, you know, producers like Kim. Is certainly make South Australia a better place to live.
Definitely.
And we're very lucky to have him. He was on that session. He did a session with us a few weeks ago. But I brought you Monforte, which is his flagship, really.
Which I absolutely love.
And there is a bit of edge in there. So I'd like you to tell me how you take something like that. So here it is. I give you a cheese. What do you do with it?
Well, the thing is with this particular cheese, because it's got a little bit of bite to it, but it's also quite creamy and really good salt content. Basically, the dish I'm going to be doing with it is cos lettuce and green goddess dressing with chicken skin and crispy bulgur wheat. And what's great about this cheese is that it's actually a really good salad cheese. It's a really good finisher, good sandwich cheese. You know, it's not as spicy as, say, a Montgomery cheddar or as sour as a Lincolnshire poacher, but it's just enough to carry it. It's a very lavish afternoon cheese, you know, afternoon sort of cheddar.
I love the way you approach that. So you obviously know your cheese well. I should try that a little bit too. So give us a sense of what your palate is picking.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's really dissolvable. There's not a lot of pepperiness or not a lot of heat, as like I said with European cheeses. I say British cheeses mainly, like cheddars. You don't have that kind of. It's going to sound really wrong when I say it, but almost that bile heat.
Yeah.
You know, but it does have a really good length of acidity. It dissolves on the tongue, so the fat displacement over the palate carries a lot of the flavour. But it's also super versatile, and I think with something like, you know, the chicken skin and the leaves, you know, will really like bring that out. You've got the water, you've got the salt.
So show us your vision.
Sure. Okay. So what we do is a little bit of beautiful cos leaves, like really simple. Green goddess dressing.
What is it?
Green goddess dressing. So think of it as a salsa verde bound with a little bit of avocado.
Oh, that smells so good.
So, you know, it's not just, you know, when I use, say, avocado for something like this and with the cheese, the fat in the avocado will actually help carry the cheese on the palate enough, because it's the fat. So what you're doing is you're coating the palate enough for the taste receptors to actually start responding to the certain elements, you know, of something like cheese, because this is quite a subtle hard cheese, you know, when you think of it.
Yeah.
The acidity is the only thing that really carries it over.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
Yeah. So again, really bloody simple.
Simple's the best.
Yeah.
Just.
So a bit of the dressing, green goddess, like I said, don't fuck around. Salsa verde, avocado, heaps of acidity, salt. There will be swearing in this because that's what I do.
We expect he's a rebel chef. We love him. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not, you know.
You can't help it.
No.
That smells very nice.
So a good mix, a little bit of olive oil just to loosen it.
Olive oil is good for you.
Touch of sea salt.
Pinch of salt.
It's a pinch. You don't have to go too hard on the seasoning on this because I'm going to be adding crispy chicken skin. So
is that the one you use in your tea sandwich?
Oh, absolutely. Oh. So we cook this for 3 to 4 hours under 2 really heavy baking sheets, and we rend out all the fats, and it's lightly seasoned. So it's like, yeah, it's super lavish, super gross as well.
Super gross.
Oh, it's you know, it's.
You didn't say that. It smells like chicken skin, which is really very often the thing you want to eat the most in the chicken.
And then what we've got here is bulgur wheat that we've fried in garlic oil. So give it a bit of taste.
Yes, please, thank you.
And that again gives some weight to the leaves. So you're not just eating the water of the leaf. You know, it kind of ties everything else on the palate.
So obviously you pay particular attention to the texture of it. You need
always.
Like a real extra dimension with crisp versus sweet versus soft and creamy.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing when you create a dish, I mean, this is obviously a dish that we just came up, you know, to use with the cheeses, but you know, it's simple processes and simple technique, but it's about the layering.
Yeah.
And it's the layering and the layering. It's the look. It's the how things, you know, every bite, how that actually the palate perceives it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the other thing. We're going to be cutting the cheeses very different. It's not a case of just throw some cheese on it and it's done. It's like some will be microplaned, some will be sliced, some will just be a big wedge. You know, because that's how you should eat that particular cheese. It's not one cut suits all. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Ah, I love that. And of course, I'm very happy you mentioned the fact that it's all about the 5 senses, isn't it? You look, it looks stunning. Do you allow people to touch their food here in this restaurant?
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to put fingers somewhere. And then, of course, the smell you can't help. The taste, you know, it's very important. You just allow people to breathe.
Well, exactly. And you know, when you eat food, it's this tangible thing. You know, I actually hate using cutlery. I actually hate it. You know, it's almost, for me, it's you lose that real emotion. You really want to be sucking food off your fingers.
I'm all for fingers. I'll be the one always to sort of put my fingers and look around thinking,
so
excellent.
Basically, a little bit of chicken skin. That's for texture, that's for crunch. And that's also, you know, beautiful flavor. You get that real sense of roast chicken skin through it, and it's adding meat without adding meat, you know, and that's a really big thing. It's like I'm actually totally off giant hunks of animal. I like, you know, I prefer skin, I prefer stock, I prefer roasting juices. The flesh itself, I don't really care about. It's, you know, it's the other bits of the animal that I really care about. Yeah.
How interesting. Sounds interesting. You and I,
pass me that tea towel just over there.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Terrific. So how do you cut this one, the cheese?
So for this one, I think because it's a bit crumbly, but we're gonna just enough thin slices, so the teeth don't have to do too much work on it, but you still get that sense of texture, and you can also, you know, take every bit of the cheese.
Yeah. Kim, if you listen, there's a few good tips for you at home, and for anybody for that matter. Are you going to put that in your menu next soon?
Sure, I'll put it in a sandwich.
Because it's true, I always thought, because a chef doesn't make the cheese, it's not the same thing. But I can see how you can certainly embrace it as being your own. Like the composition of your dishes is going to make it a real Duncan thing rather than Kim's cheese. It's obviously Kim's cheese, but with a Duncan twist. And
absolutely.
Voila. Mon Dieu. Okay. I'm dying to try this little
Do it.
Did you get that, Georgia? This looks amazing. So here you go. We'll feast in a minute.
All right.
can I surprise you with the cheddar now? And what would cheddar inspire you to do?
Okay, so, and this is an English cheddar.
Yep.
What's
Cabbage cheddar, 18 months old, Wookie whole. So as you can see, I mean, cheddar is a very crumbly cheese. Cheddar, did you know it's a verb? I cheddar, you cheddar, we all cheddar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a technique. It means that they cut the curd fairly thinly, and then they stack it. They put it in a pack, and then they stack all those pack on top of one another, and that sort of get the wear out of the curd this way by just simple gravity.
Yeah.
But then they cut it again and put that in the mold. So you have a very fine little curd, which of course is producing something that's fairly crumbly. But the beauty of that, it spends a lot of time in a cave, in a real cave.
In a real cave.
You know, that's really doop, 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 drops everywhere. Sorry, I'm just waiting. You want to lick the cloth, because the real cheddar, there's cheddar and cheddar. It's a very bastardized, name,
It is,
isn't it?
yeah.
But a real cheddar is, in a cloth
bound, yeah.
bound, and it sort of breathes, and it gets all the funkiness from the cave, and you really want to. You're in the cave with the cheese.
Yeah.
If it's dry backed, plastic fantastic has never been a thing, is it?
No, it's like meat anyway. That's sort of wet aged, as we call it. Always tastes, either irony or it sweats, and you can taste the humidity. You can't actually taste,
Yeah. So smell that, taste that, and tell me what it is for you.
So this for me,
You spent a lot of time in England, so
I did. So this is really great. This is super, super savory. Hits the back note, massively umami, and you got the little crystals, So for this one in particular, I reckon seaweed, we're just going to make an umami bomb. We're just going to fuck your taste buds up with savory.
Let's fuck it.
Yeah, so. Okay, so.
This is a good cheddar, boy. Well, you're very prepared for somebody that are just surprised with some cheese.
Yeah, well, it's lucky. I can cowboy like with the best of them in the world. And I reckon this is actually a really cool dish.
Wow.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of like the best, you get the smashed avocado and bloody, cheese on toast, whatever, at the cafe. We're going to make a variation of it, bringing in a little bit of Japanese flavors, but not because, not because it's like, okay, we're going Japanese just to make it a bit different. It's that the Japanese really focus on umami. And I think for something like this cheddar, we're just going to destroy it, and we're going to, with the help of seaweed and a little bit of cultured soy cream.
Cultured soy cream?
Yeah, which we made last night.
So you culture it yourself, obviously?
Yep, cultured ourselves, and then add burnt garlic oil, a little bit of ginger oil to it, and just slightly reduce it, and a little bit of soy that we make ourselves. And what you're actually left with is this crazy umami cream.
So umami, for those of you who are not exactly sure about it, it's sort of the fifth sense we describe as being. It's a Japanese name that means deliciousness, and it's all about the savory flavor, the tomato paste, the soybean. What is
That's
umami
it.
for you? Give us a.
Well, I mean, like, I suppose, when you activate the palate of umami, the best way to kind of describe it is when you drink something like Campari. You can feel how the Campari hits that note, back of the tongue. It's not bitter, it's savory, but with Campari it's a lot more standout because you can actually feel it activate your
Does it
tongue.
add length into everything you put in your mouth as well?
You make something super Moorish.
Yeah, Moorish.
And
super attractive.
Exactly, it's like the heroin of taste buds. You're just going to keep going back to it.
Cheap heroin, guys.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent.
All right, so for this, we're not even going to be too fucking posh on this.
Smells good. I don't know what they're doing in the back there. Ooh.
Are they turning on the smokers for bacon and chicken. 'Cause we,
So Africola, guys, if you are lucky enough to be in Adelaide, please pay Duncan a visit, because this is an incredible place. And every time I come here, it's impossible to be disappointed. This guy is a genius. Do that. He's pretty good at what he's doing. And it's incredible. But I think you're the epitome of, knowing how to use simple ingredients and turn them into something extraordinary.
well, that's
So
it.
it's, you're not reinventing the wheel, but you just know your stuff well enough to put it together and create something bang on.
Well, I think the big thing is, when I was working in all those kitchens in Europe, I was pretty much 9 times out of 10 always put on in charge of the luxury ingredient section. So the foie gras, the truffle, the caviar, and you look at creating a lobster dish, for instance, or a turbo dish, and these things cost so much money, and you think, is it actually a very necessary thing to get value and deliciousness without, do you have to spend the money to get that? And I don't think you can, Those restaurants and that style of eating doesn't really appeal to me anymore. I think there's a lot more interesting stuff with cheaper, simpler ingredients.
All right, let's get this umami going.
All right, so avocado, salt.
What is that?
This is a little bit of a ginger dressing. Just very, very light, very light. Not, you don't want to overpower. It's just marinating the avocado.
Nice.
Okay.
How do you call that?
This is a little nori crisp, which we take nori and brush it with a little bit of tapioca and water solution, and then deep fry it.
That alone is delicious.
Okay, so there's your crisp. There's this weirdo cultured cream. Just have a bit of a taste of the side of that.
Oh my God, there's a point of no return here.
Yeah.
I want the recipe for that.
Absolutely, it's super weird. We only made it last night because we were playing around, and it was just look, it's we're gonna find an application for it.
I'm gonna be totally crazy about this dish. I know that.
So, marinated avocado.
Yep. That is so simple and incredible.
And then again with the cheese itself, for this I reckon we microplane because everything is quite subtle on this dish. So we don't want to have a big chunk of cheese to break the crisp when you eat it, and have that as the main texture. So we just want it nice and soft.
This is so good.
And then finished with a little bit of toasted nori.
Beautiful. Oh wow. Okay, that's a killer. Fabulous. And because we're sort of running a bit out of time, but we're gonna for sure do that Comté. Can you bear with us? And so Comté, Jura, 18 months old.
Amazing.
It's the cheese that the French eat the most.
Yep.
By the way, do you know the French eat 25 kilos per person per year?
I think we do the same at home.
Yeah, I probably do more than that. But as opposed to here in Australia, there's 12 and a half kilo per person here in Australia. Scope for improvement, people. But if you follow us, you're going to easily reach your quota. Because it's so good also, the versatility of cheese. And I'm stunned by what you can create like that in an instant and have 2 dishes that I'm sure you'd be pretty happy to present to your customer tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's some really weird dishes that you wouldn't find on any menu. No. But it works within the context of eating. There's nothing crazy when you eat it. You go, it all actually makes sense, and you want everyone to keep going back for more. Bite after bite, and no palate fatigue.
So what do you do to avoid palate fatigue?
Well, the thing is, we control the acidity and the balance and the richness and the seasoning. and and it's having that little bit of acidity or sweetness that helps carry it. It's like when you eat a risotto, the first mouthful of a risotto is incredible.
Yeah.
The second, not so much, and the third, definitely not so much, and then you're bored.
Yeah.
Right, so for this, so we've got this beautiful Comté, and again, it's all about the cheese on this one. These are seasoning. That's a little bit of mise en place, a little bit of ingredient. This is all about the cheese. And what we've got prunes that we soaked in tea, and a little bit of port, a little bit of Armagnac for about 24 months.
Oh, so yeah, right, a bit of time there.
Yep, and this is something so beautiful with something like Comté, because again, that's the main element, and this is the seasoning.
Wow. Okay. Yep.
Where everything else, that's been a part of the dish itself. The cheese is the main dish on this one.
So what do you use those prunes for if it wasn't for the Comté there?
Nothing. We had a glut of organic prunes, and that's what we do. We get gluts of product, and we play around with it, and we'll use it one day, or maybe not. So you guys are the first to taste this, and then we've just made a little bit of a chickpea cracker, with a little bit, which I think is really great for cheeses, because it still gives it that, little bit of texture.
At that. Well, I have to say, I knew you were just quite phenomenal, but
I totally cowboyed that. That's great.
unbelievable.
Love you.
Love you so much. Look, it was worth it. Look at those three magnificent dishes. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
spending the time, because I know you opened a restaurant again, so you probably have a lot more to do. But
Absolutely.
it was super. Thank you, and thank you everyone. Feel free to link to Good Food or to Smelly or to Africola. Make sure you make a trip to this place. You will never be disappointed. Thanks,
Thank
Duncan.
you. Thank you.